And so we'll start with Mickie telling us how old you are, when you were born, introducing Bobby when you were married, and a little bit about how you met and about moving out here, about Bob's job and where you live now.
Oh, my job doesn't count.
No, your job will count when we do your interview.
Oh, I see.
Because we'll get Bob out of here,
Oh.
and then we'll go right into yours. And if you like for your job to count, you can talk about your job first. I don't care.
He doesn't care.
Just as long as you're happy.
Okay.
You can
Start anytime?
Anytime.
Okay. My name is Mildred Ann Cecilia Jones. I was born in Paducah, McCracken County, Kentucky, July 21st, 1952. And I'm the daughter of Thomas Charles Jones and Jessie Marie Knable, who had married and was a Robinson before she met my father and married him. And I have a brother who is a couple years older than me, and a sister, half-sister, who was a Robinson, and she's about 11 years older than me. I'm 39 years old as of this last July. And what else did you say?
Tell us about Bob.
This is
Where
my
were you born?
husband, Robert Simmer, who I met in California when I was living in California, and we lived together for about, 6 years? Something like that. And then we got married on December 27th, 1989.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
After we had just moved to Florida, right before we moved to Florida for Bobby to take the job that he presently has.
And what do you do, Bob, for a living?
I'm a video systems engineer.
Where at?
Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And,
Lockheed.
Lockheed Space Operations Company. Sounds real impressive, doesn't it?
So what do you do exactly?
Well, I do basically video systems design, cameras, video routing switchers, cameras on the launch pad, things of that nature. Just and help people that need help.
So you moved to Florida. How much did you pay for your house? You own your house, right?
Yeah, we got it for $59,900 in 1989.
You mind telling me how much your combined income is a year? About?
What is this, a tax interview or what? You're going to turn this into the tax?
He's doing this there, everybody.
I don't know, about
64,000,
65.
something like that.
Yeah.
We make just about the same each.
65,
Well,
70.
he makes more than me now. He doesn't have a college education, but he's a man.
Yeah.
He's a penis, so therefore he makes a lot more than me. I have a college education, so so in order for me to
that's
make as much
pretty
as him
amazing.
without a college education, I had to have a college education.
So I'm a quote, engineer.
It's been exciting coming to Florida though, because it was kind of a dream for me, because I've been a fan of the space program, fan of the space program for many, many years. So when Bobby got his job here in Florida at the Space Center, it was very, very exciting for us, and it was a move that we wanted to make anyway. We wanted to be closer to home so that we could see both of our families. His family's in Virginia Beach, his mother, and my parent. Naturally my family's in Indiana, so we're just about a little bit closer to his family than mine. But we wanted, our parents are both, our families. We just wanted to be closer to our families. So this is a way for us to be in warm weather and yet be closer geographically to our families too. So.
How did you meet?
He was my neighbor. He lived across the street.
I saw her from the front window.
And that was it, true love?
Right. She shot an arrow at me.
Yep.
Then, of course, my neighbor across the street, not her, but the neighbor next to her, we were, we used to be on the same ship. And he came over. Yeah, how's it going? Y'all are going to talk to her. So I did.
So he came over and offered to hook up my TV to MTV.
Right. That was it.
And Jeff Isles, you know Jeff Isles, he goes, I think he's after you. I said, so? So, we lived right on the beach over there. We lived right on the beach for like 5 years over, right across from the beach in Ocean Beach. And, you know, we had an okay life there. We had some problems with the, do you want me to go into any of that stuff?
No.
Okay. Okay.
And so, what do you think about the family?
I think they're all crazy.
All my family?
Yeah.
What about your family?
I think they're all crazy. But you know, it's like their craziness in different levels. You know, some people get crazy and just outwardly show it, and some people are crazy and they don't outwardly show it. They just you know, they don't express themselves as much. You know, it's like go off in your corner and you just that's where you express your craziness. More like one-on-one craziness, whereas when your family gets together, they're more crazy all together. You know, they get crazy all together, you know, and it just kind of... That's the best way I can describe it. Is, but
It
where
drives you nuts, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it's strange. I always want to see them, but then after about a week, it's like I always like to see them go.
Well, it's normal though.
We've been here less than
But I like to see them individually. You know, like we were going to go golfing, but we didn't get a chance.
Bobby's really much better in terms of socializing on a one-to-one level. Doesn't like big,
Yes, dear.
loud groups.
That's true. That's true.
He likes to get to know a person on a one-to-one level.
Yeah.
Just like
Right.
that.
One thing you want to say, Bob, to the rest of the family?
Crazy but interesting. Never a dull moment.
He smiles funny when he says that.
Never a dull moment. That's,
Well, thank you.
but sometimes I wish y'all should just calm down in public places, you know? Just gets... I don't think people around you in the public understand you. But I know it's all in fun. But they just don't understand. Not everybody, I guess. Of course, I can't speak for everybody.
Well, thank you, Bob. You're done. You did good.
Bye.
It's cute.
Is that all I have to do?
That's all you got to do. Let's go over to the center so we don't have to. She won't cry.
Have a good cry, is that what he said? Now what? It's crooked. You see that? Don't have to be so close.
No.
Get it off me. It hurts.
It's easier to hear you, though, there.
Bobby's in the window making faces at me over there. Up your nose with the rubber hose.
So we start all over this time at your who your parents are again when you were born. You're the
We did that already.
what did you say?
I'm the I'm the youngest of three. My sister is my mom's child by a previous marriage, and then my brother and me. My brother's a couple years older than me. He's probably 41 this year, and or 41. He's going to be in November of this year, 1991, and I just turned 39. What else?
So let's start with how your memories of your youngest days on up. Okay? So let's talk about, I guess, growing up wherever you grew up. You traveled at first.
Yeah, yeah. My dad was an electrician, and he always had work. He always managed to make sure that you know, no matter where he had to go or what he had to do, that he was always working, so he was bringing money in. He never would think of letting my mom work, and she was always, you know, my mom was sick from my very earliest memories. My mom was always sick. She had malignant hypertension, and from my earliest memories, she was always sick and unhealthy and in and out of the hospital. Even though my dad worked hard, we always were strapped for money because we always had medical bills and doctor's bills and all this. And Bobby's taking a picture. Why is he doing that? Anyway, so we always had medical bills, and it was rough at times. A lot of good times and some hard times. Even my mom's health was ill, and so was my brother's. He had started having grand mal seizures when we were young, and so we had two major health problems going on in the same household, and that made things very bittersweet. We had just really good times, and we had very, very difficult times. You know, it's just like, I don't remember when they started telling me, but at some point in time they started telling me my mom wasn't going to live very long. It seemed like maybe when I was 10 years old or something like that, I started hearing that maybe, you know, my mom was not going to live very long, and you know, I kind of always lived with that for quite some time, but you know, just things became more and more serious for her, and you know, there was a point in time being a teenager that, you know, my mother was always getting all this attention because she was so sick, and because I was a teenager, and that's the nature of being a teenager, I just felt like she was trying to get all the attention, and I rebelled and thought that, you know, that she was just trying to be attention getting and everything, and so I, you know, became, you know, kind of got sick of her being sick, you know, and then sure enough, when I was 16 years old, she did pass away, so I lost my mother when I was 16 years old. And but memories of my childhood, like I said, were very bittersweet. We had lots of fun with the cousins. I always loved the times with the cousins, and we always went swimming and did things like went to trampolines, and, you know, had a lot of, what does that mean?
Did you break your finger?
Yeah, I broke my finger. Donna, we were on trampolines, me and Donna, and I think Diane. We were on a trampoline, and Donna, we weren't supposed to have two on the trampoline, and Donna and I were on it together, and I was sitting down, and she was going to be jumping up, standing up, and making me bounce high, but she stepped on my finger, and ouch, it hurt really bad, and I knew it was broken, but I didn't want to tell anybody. I was staying with Betty and Jean at that time, and you know, we went out for root beers after that, and I didn't want to tell anybody it was broken, so I just sat there and tried to have the root beer, but I dropped the glass, and then everybody looked at my finger, and it was all crooked. So I had to have my finger fixed.
So you ran around with Donna a lot?
Donna and me and Kathy and Mary Lou were all very, very close. We were all born the same year. We always thought that was really neat that all four of the kids, all four of Mama Jones's and Papa Jones's kids had babies the same year, and we were all girls, and we thought we were very special. We thought that meant we were real, real special. So every time, you know, the family would get together, we would just be like magnets, and we were always just found each other and stayed together as much as we could, and you know, we were important to each other. We really, really found refuge, and, you know, talking about things, and, you know, sharing experiences that we all went away and had, and it was just really neat to have that relationship with them.
So do you remember Papa Jones?
Yeah, I remember. Oh, I was going to bring that other picture out of him in that chair. Yeah, I know. I've heard a lot of other people have the same memory. It's funny, my memory of him was like distorted because I always thought he was a huge man. I always thought he was huge. Of course, I was a little kid, you know, and to me, he was huge and big and powerful, you know, and in later years, you know, as an adult, when I talked to my dad, he would say, Papa Jones wasn't a big man, and I couldn't believe that. I'd say, Dad, of course he was. He had to be. He'd have three of us on one leg. And I thought, how could he be small and have three of us on one leg? But to me, he was just a very big man, and I just remember him sitting in that chair that he had, and I know several people in the family that I talked to remember him that way too, sitting in that chair and having 3 or 4 of us grandkids on his lap at once. And
So he was good to you, huh?
yeah, I remember him being, I don't know how old I was when we lost him, but I just remember that he was somebody who, you know, you get in trouble with everybody else, but not him. not him. He would, if we did something, he would, and I don't know where I got this impression. I don't remember an exact memory, but he was the one. He'd lie for you or whatever he had to do. He would keep you out of trouble. So I do remember that he was an ally. He was a kid's advocate. So.
So what about Mama?
Mama Jones, she was a little more stern, and of course Doug was her favorite. But I remember her as being a very strong woman. There was a lot of us grandkids, so I don't remember a real personal relationship with her because there were so many of us, and I think she was very tied up with, because Betty was having all the trouble with, now he comes over, was having all the trouble with, her marriage at that time and trying to raise, 4 kids by herself and everything. I think that Mama Jones's attention focused on, helping her and everything. And so I don't remember having a real strong personal relationship with her, but I remember, that she was a very strong woman, a very businesslike woman, and I remember admiring her as a very businesslike woman.
So she was more my grandmother than yours, so she just raised us?
Yeah, I think my mom's grandmother was probably more of a grandmother to me, because I just don't think that Mama Jones could be there for all of us. There were just so many grandkids that I think it was impossible, between Buck's kids and Betty's kids and Norb's kids and Dad's kids. There was just too many of us. I don't know, how many did that make, 40 some odd? That I just don't think it was possible for her to have a real personal relationship with all of us.
Why don't you tell us what you have there?
Yeah, well, these are just some treasures, and there's another one that I'd like to show, if we have to move, and I can grab it. But this is a couple treasures that Dad has given me. Oh, okay. Dad has given me in recent years, and, I'm just real proud of them and just really thrilled to have them. This is a First Communion certificate of Helena Friedman, and it is dated April 8th, 1888. And, it's just... we talked about...
I'll just cut that in. Then.
Yeah, okay.
Tell us about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's just something that, it was her First Communion certificate, and, it's like a family treasure, and we thought about changing the frames, but we decided that's the frame it was put in, so we didn't want to mess with it. The frame is kind of hard to hang on the wall because it's kind of tattered and everything, but we wanted to leave things as they were. And then this other thing is a Bible, a family Bible. It's an old German Bible, and it's written in German. And, of course, none of us know German, but, I mean, not, very many of us, but it's written in German, and it's dated, here in the front, it's Joseph Friedman's, and it's Apollonia Eckenfels, married November 1854 in Jasper, Indiana. So I considered this like a big treasure. It has like some beautiful artwork in it.
So they were our great-grandparents.
Great-grandparents. And it has beautiful artwork in it. And I'm just very proud to have it to pass on. The family has talked about giving this to a library or something, but until we decide, I don't know. It's hard to give up since it's a family heirloom. But anyway, there's a little blurb here written about the New Testament, page 1243. Sometime I'll have to look at it. Just noticed that. Anyway, yeah. So okay, we don't want that to get rained on. So is this turned off? Okay. So.
All right. So, okay. Tell us about you took care of your brother a lot, right? You also said you took care of your mom. I guess your mom was sick and your brother was also sick, so did you have to take care of your brother a lot?
Well, it wasn't so much take care of him, but I don't know. It wasn't so much physically take care of him, because when he wasn't having a seizure, he was really fine. But we really bonded together, and because of his seizures, people, we moved around a lot, so it was hard to get close to, make close friends until we finally settled in Boonville, Indiana. And I don't know when that was, but anyway, because we were moving around a lot, and he was having seizures, a lot of children, children are cruel and people don't understand it. And, when he'd have seizures, sometimes, kids would all make fun of him, So him and I were very, very close because, we had to stick together, and, it was like we just kind of were real close as children.
So where all do you move to,
Oh, gosh. No, I don't. I know I was born in Paducah, Kentucky, which I don't remember living there at all because I think we were only there for, and Dad would be a better person to answer some of that, but I know we were only there for, I think, about 6 months after I was born. And, gosh, all over the Midwest probably, but there was a certain point when we moved to Boonville that Dad kept going away to work. But, we lived in Chicago for some years, in Chicago, Joliet, Illinois, near Chicago, I should say. And, but mostly around the Midwest when Dad would find work, and then there just became a point where Mom was sick and they wanted to settle near the family so that they could, have used family resources as she got sicker and sicker, and so we settled in Boonville because of her health and everything.
So what was it like with your uncles? What did you think of your uncles when you went to their houses?
Well,
What kind of memories do you have of Uncle Bob and Nora?
well, I remember a lot of, like I say, I remember a lot of good things, and I guess the very baseline is I think there was a lot of love in the family, but there was also problems. There was a lot of drinking, and all the family affairs were always centered around drinking, which I guess that's okay in moderation, but it really rarely was in moderation. And I guess as I grew up, problems started to surface for me that were kind of related to that, and I had a lot of problems in my early not adolescence, but in my early adult life. I had a lot of problems, and I didn't know what was wrong, but I wanted to know what was wrong, and I did a lot of self-searching. I went to psychologists, and I read all kinds of self-help books because, I don't know, there was just some kind of thing in me where I felt something was wrong with me, and like I said, baseline is there was a lot of good memories, and I think our family is very, very close. But there's problems in our families, and it has affected a lot of us. And like I said, in my early adult life, I had a lot of trouble trying to form relationships, and I would pick men who were not ideal people just because I felt something was wrong with me, and I felt in order to find a mate I had to find somebody who had something wrong with them too. So I had a lot of trouble forming relationships and just feeling good about myself. There was always a feeling that I wasn't as good as other people, and I don't know where that came from, but like I said, I did a lot of searching, a lot of self-discovery kinds of things, and I did a lot of, breaking up in and out of relationship kind of things. And I always would think, I'd go into a relationship thinking, well, I got to take a guy that's not, real great because, I'm not real great. And then I'd discover how bad he was, and I'd think, well, I'm not going to put up with this. So I was in and out of a lot of relationships. And it came to bear on me that, I couldn't keep going from relationship to relationship. And then finally I happened into an Al-Anon meeting, and I guess God led me there. And there was a girl there and was describing my relationship past to a T, and it was her relationship past. She was talking about how she was in and out of relationships, and she couldn't find a guy who was, acceptable for a relationship, and yet she kept ending up with men who were drinkers or drug addicts and the like that. So I sat there and I kept shrinking down in my chair because I thought the girl was talking about me. But so I kept going back to Al-Anon, and at that point in time I was in a relationship with Bobby. And the first thing they said was, and I went there because Bobby was a drinker, and he was another man that I was in love with, but we had broken up and gotten back together and broken up and gotten back together, and we just couldn't seem to make it work, and we couldn't seem to make the breakup work either. So we were having, so finally I went to this, and when I started really seeking out the advice, this program and everything, I discovered that there was a lot of things about me that were a lot like alcoholism in the family dynamics, the dysfunctional behavior, the dysfunctional communications. And even though I really don't think my father is an alcoholic. I sincerely do not. But I think there's a dysfunctional communication pattern that, was throughout all of our families in our family unit. And I think, that it was just very, very difficult for me to learn to communicate properly and to make my needs known, and therefore, and so I just had to learn to communicate, and I had to learn a lot about myself. And finally, I guess it was, let's see, how old was I? I guess this has been like about 3 or 4 years ago when I went to Al-Anon, and when one of the first things they gave me in terms of advice is, it's not going to do you any good to break up with this person, because a problem is inside of you, and you need to figure out what's going on with yourself. Stop breaking up with everyone. Stop trying to seek the perfect relationship, because the answer is within you. And when I realized that that was the problem, I started really looking within me even deeper, and I found the right person. I had, like I said, I've been reading self-help books, I'd been going to psychologists and so forth, but I finally found the answers. And I did a lot of self within work through this program, through the 12-step program, and it really, really helped me. And then Bobby had decided to get, Al-Anon helped me to say the right things to Bobby and to do the right things, and finally Bobby went for help, and then we got into a wonderful program and got a lot of help through it. And I've really come to understand our family and understand why we are the way we are, and also that 95% of the other families in the world are like this. So I have no animosity, I have no, in fact, I think our family is very precious. I think our family has something that you just cannot get. You cannot get what our family has, the closeness, the way we grew up together, the way, there was 1 billion of us cousins, and yet each and every one of us are close in our own way. Even like there's like generations of our family. Like there's Bobby Joe and that generation of our family, and then there's me and Donna and Mary Lou and that generation, and then there's Mary and Gary and all that generation of our family. There's like 3 generations of cousins in our family, and we all keep track of each other more so than so many people that I know don't know who a lot of their family is, or blah blah blah. But we care about each other. We really, really care. It's a precious, precious family.
Right, so we got off track just a little bit. Let's go back to your mother died, and then you kind of became the mom of the house. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah.
You got out of school?
Well, I grew up really fast when my mom died. She died when I was 16 years old, and like I said, I was in a very rebellious state at that point in time, and it was a very rude awakening. It was like a total slap in the face of reality. It was like going from childhood and immaturity and wrapped up in yourself to being all of a sudden aware of what the world can do, and it was just really a big, big thing. And I felt like I lost my childhood in a way. I felt like I walked out of my childhood the day she died. And then in the months that passed after my mom died, about 3 months after she died, I really understood death, because I kept telling myself in those first months after she died that she wasn't coming back, but it was like 3 months afterwards, and I realized she really was never coming back. And it was like I had decided that I was going to change my life, that I was going to be an adult now, and I wasn't going to hang around with my friends anymore, and I wasn't gonna I was going to be there, and I was going to be there for Dad, and I was going to be there for Larry, and I figured there was a big hole that had to be filled, and I had to fill it. And it took some very good friends that I had at the time, and my dad, to say, hey, look, you are a kid, and you have kid things to do yet. And so I took a little bit of the death, and I became, I would look at kids at school after that, and I'd think, they don't know. And so I guess I became an adult in a way, but I had some very good friends, and Dad was just wonderful in helping me through that. And I guess our family became very close because it was a very difficult thing to go through.
So then you went into nursing after school?
Yeah, then I went through nursing, and I think sometimes I feel like I went through nursing because I was a kid in the Midwest, and I wanted to figure out a way to earn a living that was dependable, and I went through nursing. You know, now as a woman of the 90s, I wish I would have saw more options, but I do love nursing. I do love nursing. I don't think I've explored all sorts of other things. I took a year of schooling at University of California, and went and took journalism classes and things like that. I've always felt like I wanted to write and that kind of thing, and I always thought there was a very artistic side of me that maybe wasn't being explored. But the more I mature and the more I grow up, the more I feel like there's nothing more worthwhile to do than nursing, and I feel like also that I'm very good at it. I'm very intuitive, and I seem to be able to feel what patients are feeling, and it's a very, very rewarding job.
So then you went in the military, is that correct?
Yeah, well, I went to nursing school, and then about halfway through nursing school, my dad was paying for it, and you know, of course, he was still recovering from medical bills, and I felt like I wanted to help financially. So I found out that I could get a scholarship through the Navy. So I applied, and I worked really hard to get my grades up, so that for the year that they examine your grades and all that, that my grades would be good enough. And I got the scholarship, and I went into the finished my nursing school receiving a salary. I received a salary, had a brand new car while I was a junior in nursing school, so that was really nice. It was like being really financially successful in nursing school, because all the other people were, you know, didn't have cars or had old clunkers or whatever, and I bought a brand new car and had money to burn and all that stuff. So it was really you know, rewarding in that way. And the other thing is, I don't know if, you know, because of the closeness with the family and everything, I don't think I would have ever left home without having been forced. And when I graduated from nursing school, Uncle Sam said, "Come on," and I was like going, I didn't think it'd come this soon, and I had to go.
So where did you go?
Well, it was funny because at first I was supposed to go, I had a love of California, and I was supposed to go to San Diego, California. I put in for that duty station, and I got it. And I was supposed to go to San Diego, California, but I became very close to a guy in Indiana, and you know, we had marriage plans, and I was, you know, so I asked for a duty station closer to home, and that was Jacksonville, Florida. So they gave me that. They switched my duty station, and I ended up going to Jacksonville, Florida, and I was there for 2 years. And it was a very, very wonderful experience. I was crying a lot because I was so homesick, but now in retrospect, I have friends that I made during that point in time in my life that just are invaluable. We became like family, and I think we'll always be friends. So it was a very good experience.
So you did end up in California though, eventually? Right?
Yeah, then after I got out of the Navy, and while I was in the Navy and away from home, the relationship became strained by the distance and all that, and you know, with the guy that I had changed my duty stations for, and so after I got out of the Navy, I went straight home to Indiana, and I was there for a year. I was very restless. I wanted to travel, and I still had a thirst to see California and to be in California, so I decided to move there, and I moved there.
So what did you do in California?
Well, I had gone into intensive care. I was in intensive care for the whole time, and I went directly into intensive care back in California. It's very easy to get a job, right? Well, I didn't think it'd be very easy. I didn't have my nurse's license, so I tried to get a job. It was a job for actually California concerts. I was a receptionist. I just had met some people out there, and I couldn't get my nurse's license, and a couple of places told me I couldn't have a job there, so I acted as a receptionist for California concerts from these people that for about, well, I guess 2 months I was a receptionist for answering the phones, and I talked to Helen Reddy's agent, and you know, all these agents would call, and I just kind of helped out in their office, so they kind of just you know, paid me, you know, a wage just to get by on. And then finally I got my license after a couple of months. It took a while to get my license by reciprocity in California, and then right away I went into intensive care. So
how long were you in intensive care then?
Ended up working in intensive care for about 11 years. So, but I finally got burned out. It was just very intense and very heavy duty, and I just finally, the stress of it just started getting me physically. I never seemed to emotionally bother me, but I started having ulcers and just a lot of physical problems, backaches and all kinds of things, and the doctor just advised me to get out of it. So I got out of intensive care and went into floor nursing, and they knew I had intensive care experience, so they put me on one of the worst floors in the hospital, and I don't think it was any better in intensive care. So I did that for a few years, and then the doctors kept saying, you can't do this, you can't lift like this, your back is, you got a bad disc, and you can't keep lifting like this. So I finally went into an outpatient department where I didn't have to do heavy lifting, and we just did outpatient procedures and like that. So, and then when I moved to Florida, I went, couldn't get a job. They didn't have any openings in the outpatient department. I started working in home care. So, and that's where I work today.
So explain home care business.
Home care has been wonderful. It's just like, sometimes I feel like my whole nursing career was headed in this direction, because we go to see people in their homes, and we, visit them in our homes. Now, because of insurance restrictions and Medicare restrictions, they make people leave the hospital much sooner. And they go home a lot sicker, and also we see patients who are dying and like that, and we do a lot of work with people right in their homes, and it's very rewarding. We have to set up the equipment that they need, and teach the families how to do dressing changes, and we have to instruct them in diets, and check their wounds, and there's just a vast array of what we do. It's just like we've taken hospital nursing and taken it to people's homes.
So you've seen almost a 360-degree turn from doctors visiting the house, and now they're back to visiting the house again, basically, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if they were ever visiting their house. They're not visiting homes when I started out. A few of them are today. Just a few of them here in Florida. In Florida here, we live in a small town, and it's doctors are different than they were in California. I don't think I'd ever seen that in California, but we have a few today that will go to people's homes, especially if they're bedridden or something like that.
So you like living in Florida?
Pardon me?
Do you like living in Florida?
Well, I like living in Florida. I loved California, but Florida has just been for me like, the space program. It's like, it's not so much Florida, but it's like what we came here for. It's like the way Bobby and my relationship has grown, and being a part of the space program is very exciting for me. We're very close to it. We watch all the shuttle launches, and we watch, deltas go off, and now the shuttles are landing back here again. We get to go to open houses where we go into, a lot of the things that nobody gets to see. We get to go to, places like, the orbiter processing facility where they get the shuttles ready for, launch and everything, and just all kinds of things over at the Space Center that, having been a fan of the space program all my life, and having thought that they landed on the moon on my birthday because I was a moon child. I've just been an avid fan of the space program for a long time, so that has sort of been a dream. And because we wanted to get closer to the family, this is just a good place for us to do that, and because real estate was affordable, and financially our life has just turned around since we've been here. We barely made ends meet while we were in California, and here we are not living payday to payday. We're not, we've got a savings account. We own our own home. We're buying our own home, and we even have the money to build a room on. We just built a new room on this year. And it's just, we're able to, have money to do things with family, and we want that. That's important to us.
So if you have to explain yourself to your great-grandchildren that you'll never meet, how would you explain Mickie Jones to them? What kind of woman are you?
Well, I like me a lot now. I didn't used to. I used to, just not too many years ago, I have to say I didn't like me very much. I always thought I wasn't as good as other people, and I thought that if people really knew me, they wouldn't like me. If they really knew me, like I had secrets or something. And this program, like I said, the recovery that we've gone through with Bobby having recovered from alcoholism, and me learning what I've learned about myself because of his recovery and my involvement in his recovery and my own recovery, I have really come to terms with a lot of the things that were eating at me inside and making me feel like I wasn't as good as other people. And I've come to terms with a lot of that, and I do not feel that way anymore. I like myself. I feel I'm strong. I feel I'm a courageous person. I feel that I could do anything I want to do. It's sort of like, I used to think I needed to be an artist or a writer or something. I wasn't as good because I wasn't the things I should be. And now I think that I'm whatever I am. It doesn't matter, because it's okay. It's okay. What I'm doing now, to me, I've come to terms with everything. It's like a maturing process and a growing, learning process is taking place, and I'm really looking forward to my aging years. And I look the way some of the family has aged, and that's another thing I really like. I think our family they're fun-loving, and like Aunt Betty, they have a zest and a hunger for life, and Dad, they just have this hunger for life. They enjoy their retirement, and I just think there's a lot. I look forward to aging and the wisdom that it brings. And
You're not silly, are you?
I'm silly. I'm very silly. I'm silly. I'm goofy. I love to be outrageous. I love to shock people. I love to shock people. I love to talk people in elevators. I love people. I love people. I think people are interesting. I think I like to look at their faces across the room and see them do silly things or eat, or, I just think people are just wonderful.
Since it's raining,
Yeah.
why don't you quickly tell us what kind of advice would you give your great-grandchildren? If you had to give them one advice, what would it be?
I think it would be to feel your feelings. I know that sounds weird, but I think that was one of the weird things that I learned in the recovery process, that sometimes we shut ourselves off from our feelings, and then pretty soon we've lost ourselves because we don't feel our feelings. So as silly and as kind of weird as it sounds, I think feel your feelings. Feel your feelings and know that you're important, and know that every single feeling that you have is legitimate, and that every feeling that you have deserves expression and deserves attention, and that makes you who you are. And if people tell you you shouldn't feel sad or you shouldn't feel angry, don't buy it, because who you are, and your feelings are a part of that. And don't lose that. Don't lose yourself in having people tell you not to feel things and so forth. So.
Anything else you'd like to say to anybody else that you might not see for a while? Or
I'm glad this is over. No, it's hard to sum up everything in I guess, a taped interview.